All right, article reviews. So, how do we do our article reviews and gap analysis? So, this class will just be focusing on article review and gap analysis. And in this class, we'll be looking at the significance of article review, article download issues, what to note from each article, practical, and we'll carry out a practical example of the article review and gap analysis. Then you can ask questions, and that should be the end. Now, note, basically, what we'll be doing in this class is how to do your article review and analysis. Please. Okay, so before we go into that, we'd like to look at the significance of article review. First, the first significance that is that variables and surveyables are identified. Variables and surveyable identification. When you carry out your article review, it helps you to note down or to be able to know variables and the surveyables which you can possibly use for your own research. Another thing is that it helps us to know the nature of the topic. You have a vision of what you might likely be doing in that topic, or even when you've not started, when you're while involved in the article review. Types of data required. When you carry out the article review, it helps you to know what type of data actually you'll be adopting for your own research. And finally, it provides a wide range of literature. By the time you're done with the article review, you should have come across a lot of literatures which you possibly will be using or you should have ideas from to develop yours. So the next thing we'll look at is the article download issues. There are so many issues which we encounter. So one of them is our advice us is to try to use recent articles. Yeah, use recent articles 2019, 2018, 2017. Just try as much as possible for it to be recent. Don't go for 90 something which you weren't obviously yet even on this planet Earth when the articles was written, and start using such. Another thing is we try to get exactly our topics. No, in article if you just use related articles. Yeah, just use related articles. That should be fine and okay. And the next thing we'll be looking at is what to note from each article, what you are to look out for in each article. First is the author's name and the year. The title of the article follows. Next is the objective or methodology, findings, and finally the gap. So these are things which we'll actually look out for when we say we are doing an article review. The list is actually unending, like it depends on your supervisor. They might ask you to put several other things into your article review. But basically, if your supervisor asks you to go do 10 article review or 15 articles review without giving you a format, trust me, this format is what he or she expects to see, except if he specifically tells you to use a different format aside from this. But this is what I'll be talking on. So next we'll be trying to do a practical example of an article review. So I'll be using an article which was sent in by by a student, one of the students. So this is the article the student sent to us. So we'll be trying to do our article review. So I'll be going to my Word document where I'll be having this article review done. So this is where I'll be doing my article review. I'll be doing it in the tabular format. Yeah, I'll be doing it in the tabular format. You just go to insert to develop this table. I believe we can do that, but you just go to insert, click on table, then you just click and that's it. So like I said, things we are to note from each article is the author or author's name and the what and the year. We look at the title, followed by the objective, then methodology, findings, and finally the gap or gaps. So starting with the author / the year. So I'll just go to the article, search for where the names of the author or authors appears. This is the name. I'll copy the first one, go back to where I'm doing my article review and paste it. I can either leave it this way or I'll just use an initial for some of their names. For the next name, Then I'll copy, go back to the article, get the second person's name, then come back here and we'll paste that here. For the last name, I want to use an initial. Then for the last person, since there are 3 people there, I'll use and get back to the article and get the third person's name. And have it fixed right here. Remember, I want the last name to be on initials. So after getting their names, next thing is for us to get the year of the publication. So go to the article, go to the top corner of the article. Is always at the top, maybe sometimes at this side of the article, your top right hand corner, but this one now is located here. So this is where we have March 2019. So 2019 is the year for the article. You can see the article is actually recent, just last year. So just put in brackets 2019. Full stop. After that, we are done with this column. We move on to the next one, which says the title of the article. For the title of the article, you just go to the article. The title is always obvious. You just pick the title the way it is and go back to where we are doing our article review, then paste that. It's actually interesting if you actually know what you're doing, and I believe with this video you should see it as such. So I'm done with the title. Next is the objective. I'll go back to the article, then search in the article. Sometimes most of the information you need to do your article review is already here in this abstract here. It's already in your abstract. Just in your abstract, you can get most of the information you need for your article review. Okay, we are searching for objective. Now note, they might not state it clearly that this is the objective. Sometimes they might use synonyms of objectives, which could be aim, objective, targets, what the study was out to achieve. Such things are ways which you can actually find your objective. So from this abstract now, I'm going to get out the objective, and they said the research work examined the impact of internal control on financial performance in Nigerian airline industry. That's not what I'm looking for, and the airline was chosen due to the important role they play in increasing the level of physical activity. That's not what I'm looking for. We're looking for objective, the aim or the target. Now this sentence now starts with the aim and target. I think this is where we get what we're looking for. The aim and target of his research, that's of this article, is to, so actually I'll just start from here down to where I have the next full stop, available full stop, and copy it. Then take it down to where I have my article reviewed. Then that is the objective. Next thing is the methodology. Under this methodology, there are 2 things which we would like you to tell us. Tell us the type of data that was used and how those data was analyzed. There are majorly 2 types of data, either primary or secondary. And primary, they might not tell you they adopted primary data. They might tell you it was interview. They might tell you it was questionnaire. So once you hear either interview or questionnaire was conducted, that means it is purely primary data. Then when you hear anything aside from interview or questionnaire, then you just know it is secondary. So we get back to the article. Now this is where we stopped, so we continue from here. We won't be going backward. We'll just continue from where we stopped. So it will be the project was carried out by reviewing relevant journals, textbooks, and literature on the topic. That's not what we're looking out for. The next sentence reads, the questionnaire were used to elicit information. This is what we're looking out for. Remember I told you we want to know, is it questionnaire, interview, that's for primary data, then whether it's annual report of firms that were used for the article. So they said they use questionnaire, so I'll just copy questionnaire as were used to elicit information and paste it here. After pasting that here, the next thing is I would like to tell you how this information or data that was collected, how it was analyzed. So I'll get back to the article, still on the abstract. So we're looking at how the data was being analyzed. They are saying here now that a total of 50 copies of individual, that's what we're looking for. So the data gathered were analyzed using SPSS. Okay, that's what we're looking for. The software which they used was SPSS to generate frequencies, to generate frequency percentages and to run the chi-square. So I could just pick this to the last sentence and paste it on my article review here. The next is the findings, still on the abstract. So findings is the same thing as the outcome, it's the same thing as the results. So when you see any of these synonyms or any of these words being used, it is the findings. So the result of the empirical finding showed. Okay, so the finding, so we just take this and stop at the next available paragraph. You see how easy it is? Just copy that and paste it here. Then the next thing to do is, the next thing and the final thing in this table is the gap. Now this is where most of you have challenges, so just pay attention. So for me to get my gap, first of all I want to start from the beginning. That's the topic. Look at the topic. We can see that the topic is impact of internal control on financial performance on Nigerian airline industry. A study of airline in Ilorin, Kwara State. Now, Ilorin is a state in Nigeria. Is that the only state where they operate airlines? Is that the only state where there's airports? Obviously, the answer is no. There are several others. We have Lagos, Abuja, Enugu, Port Harcourt, several states. So why did they just study one state and use it to generalize the whole of Nigeria? It's not going to be possible. So I would say this study has a gap in terms of its studied population. The population which is studied is what is small. So how I'll put this is how I'll put it, that the study only considered one state out of several others that has airlines. So with that, I'm done with my gap. Because it only considered one state out of several others that have airlines, we can't actually generalize the outcome of this article, because you can't just because of one state. What if the findings of this one state is not similar with other states? Or especially by a study, if they have studied a large number of states like Lagos, Abuja, and maybe one other one, good, we can now say, okay, based on the findings of these three, there's probability that every other airports or airlines in Nigeria should have a similar outcome if this same study is carried out in that state. So that is a gap. So we could actually still look at this article. What of a situation whereby this article actually studied up to 3 states? That means the studied states is no longer a gap. So we look further. Since this work is a primary data work, we'll look further into the number of questionnaires which were distributed. They said a total of 50 copies were distributed to individuals at the airports visited. 50 people. 50 people, over 1 million people that, oh, sorry, did I say 1 million? Over several millions of people that actually visit the airport. Only 50 people's opinion were used to judge the rest. Actually, you can see that this is actually a gap. More of what we'll be doing in gaps is trying to criticize the work, but we are criticizing it based on what it has. So I will say again, I could say that the sampled population is or was only limited to 50 respondents, which you can go further to say which is not a good number of people to use to judge the large population of people that actually visits the airline. Now that is, with this we are done with the article review of that very article. But most of us are always having challenges when it comes to that gap. That's the very last one. So I made out a checklist of things you could actually go through, and from there you can get one or two things which you can use as your gap. So I tagged it a checklist in identifying a gap. So first thing is, check out whether the study is qualitative or quantitative. When it is qualitative, that means data weren't collected. How do you know if data weren't collected? You see that in the article, it is more like just a theoretical write-up, like they were just writing theories without any calculation being involved, without performing any analysis in the article. So that one is purely qualitative. Then whereby it involves calculation, they show that yes, they did some analysis, it is quantitative. So if you find out that the article is purely qualitative, you can just, it's clear obvious that they didn't collect data. You can just make that as a gap, that the study was basically qualitative and the quantitative research wasn't what, or quantitative study wasn't what included in this research. So that is a gap. Then the next thing is sampled population, like we just did in the article which we just reviewed. The sampled population was few or was small compared to the number of airlines which you have. So when the sample population is so too small, just use that as a gap. No need of looking for what is not there. That's a gap is actually okay. The next thing is years of coverage. Years of coverage is basically open to those using secondary data. Yeah, if you're using secondary data, basically that's where these years of coverage is of essence. So if the article which you are reviewing is a secondary data, that means they use annual statements, annual reports of a firm or a company, or they use data from CBN Bulletin Statistics, World Bank, such data houses. The year that very article covered, is it up to 10 years? If it's not up to 10 years, you can use that as a point, as a gap. You can criticize the article saying that the number of years covered was only 3 years. You get, which is not sufficient for a year, for a study as its year coverage. Then if they actually studied up to 10 years, another question you can actually ask yourself is the years, like, okay, let me say for instance the study from 2006 to 2016, quite alright, the gap is over 10 years, quite alright, but 2016, we have 2017, 2018, 2019, it is not recent. So we look out for, you say you could criticize the work if the year is not up to 2019 or 2018. Yes, you could use that as a gap, that the gap of the study is that the years covered is not what recent, is not up to date. Exactly. So the next thing is identification of dependent and independent variable. Some of the articles, if you go through them, they do not identify which is their dependent and which is their independent variable. And when you come across such article, automatically you can just use this as a gap, that the study was not able to identify the dependent and independent variable. Full stop. That's a gap. The next thing is the period of coverage. Some study will not tell you the period they are covering. Some might not even tell you the area of their study where the study was carried out, or the case study. They won't state that. Once you see such articles, use that as a gap. Criticize it based on the fact that the period of coverage wasn't stated and the place of study wasn't as well stated. The next thing is the analysis of the study. Analysis of the study, I think I would omit this in the sense that most of you are not used to analysis, so you won't be able to detect which is a proper analysis for a particular topic. So, but the only thing I will tell you about analysis of the study is whenever you come across an article and it has to do with a questionnaire interview, that's primary data, and it wasn't stated in the work that they carried out a pilot study, criticizes that this study lacked a pilot study. Pilot, P-I-L-O-T. Then finally, most articles are not always stating their implications of the study. So when you go through the article and you find no implication of the study, let that be known that the implication of the study or the implication of the findings weren't made known in this article. So I believe with this, you should be able to do your articles review properly. And if you have any questions, please drop the comments. And if you have maybe an extra thing which your supervisor has asked you to include in your article review that you'd like us to look into as well, you can state that in the comment section, and I would make another video or give you an explanation on how that could actually be achieved. I believe this video is helpful. If it's helpful, please like and subscribe so you get some other videos from us with regards to your research. Thank you.